So very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome you all to ICF Travel Series Break Free, and our guest for today is Tathagata Neogi, who is associated with, or I would say, he's a co-founder of Immersive Trails, which is a very interesting concept. And our session for today is on this concept only. So he will take us through some interesting experiences that he has had. So over to you, Mr. Neogi, now.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Vivek and Mr. Murugaraj and everyone for having me here. And so today I'll be talking about some places which are probably not very well known outside Bengal in terms of its terracotta late medieval terracotta temple architecture and the stories that those places have to offer. Because when we hear about terracotta temples, we generally talk about Bishnupur, which was a medieval kingdom, and that's where you go, and that's where you see the temples. That's where you also see that's where you go and get the baluchori sari and all of the craft and all of that. But Bishnupur's, interestingly, most of the temples there are actually not terracotta temples. Most of the temples are actually made of laterite. So we will be going away from Bishnupur and we'll be going near to Santiniketan, which is made famous by Rabindranath Tagore uh, because of Vishwarath University that's there. And we'll be going around some places, like seeing some places around it, and basically looking at the terracotta temples that are there and the beautiful villages in the beautiful villages around them. So I'll share my screen and we can then start. I'll start with introducing the Terracotta Temples of Bengal, which is a medieval that using burned bricks and terracotta plaques, which were specifically made to decorate temples or religious structures, was a medieval tradition of Bengal. Unfortunately, the knowledge is now lost because of using concrete and other modern building materials. The reason that terracotta has been was widely used in Bengal is that there in most parts of Bengal, especially in South Bengal, there are almost no good quality stones that are available. So instead of stones, what people would do is they would just use brick, which could be made locally, and then they would use like plaques. They will use casts to make brick plaques, ornate plaques, and then they will use them to decorate the temples. It was an expensive work. It took a huge amount of craftsmanship to do that, to carve those the plaques consistently and all of that. But this was preferred because of the easy availability of the materials and the comparatively easy availability of good quality mud, which can then be burnt into bricks and the terracotta. So you can see terracotta scattered all throughout Bengal. So the one on the left is a photograph of Moluti, which is in the Bengal Jharkhand border. The one here is a picture from Gaunpur, which is in Birbhum. We'll be going there. One here is a photo of a almost derelict terracotta temple, which has been later painted with, like, washed with cement, unfortunately, as the plaques were taken out, and uh, probably probably were resold at some point. So this is one at the heart of Calcutta, at the center of Calcutta. There are several terracotta temples in Calcutta. There were, unfortunately, most of them are in this current shape. And then terracotta architecture did not only was not only associated with temples. So one on the right over here, you see this is a huge mosque complex in Murshidabad. This is the mosque that was established by Murshid Quli Khan, the first so-called independent Nawab of Bengal. And this huge mosque complex is built of like burnt brick. There's almost no use of stone. It's entirely been built of burnt brick, and there used to be beautiful decorations on terracotta and stucco. Stucco is basically lime and mortar. So beautiful decorations on lime and mortar of like floral patterns and patterns of trees and all of that. throughout this mosque. Unfortunately, this mosque was damaged in 1899 earthquake, and is now restored by the ASI, but those original patterns are now lost. So when we talk about terracotta in Bishnupur, like terracotta in Bengal, as I said, we talk about Bishnupur, and specifically we talk about these couple of temples that actually have terracotta patterns. Like this one, this is a temple in Bishnupur from the 1600s, which has terracotta patterns all along, like throughout all of the sides of the temple, and this is very beautifully carved, and it probably like took at least 5 to 6 months to construct this whole thing. Now, if you go, and this is how it looks like if you go close to that. It's completely intricately carved with terracotta blocks and all of that. But apart from this temple, and there's another temple in Vishnupur. Apart from these two temples, most of the temples there look like this. They are basically they use the local laterite stone that's available, because Bishnupur is in the laterite zone, and there is good quality laterite blocks that are available there. So they use the laterite stone to build the temple because it makes them sturdy, and then they carve those stones with normal stone carving techniques, and then finally these temples were washed with lime and mortar wash on top of that. So you can see remains of the wash over here as well as over here. So most of the temples in Bishnupur actually looks like this. So it is, if you talk about the Terracotta heartland of Bengal, it is not Bishnupur, it is actually Birbhum, which is where we are going to go today and visit at least 4 places which has beautiful terracotta temples associated with it. So let's situate you. Let's look at the map and see where we are going. So this is Calcutta over here, as you can see, south of Bengal, and west from it about 3 hours, 3 hours drive is the city of Bishnupur, which used to be a medieval capital of Bengal, and where and the Malla kings of Bishnupur basically controlled all of the forested frontiers of Bengal in this area. So they were paid by the Mughals to control the forests, to basically safeguard Bengal from invasions through the forested frontiers. So that's how the Bishnupur kingdom basically became a major kingdom, a thriving kingdom in this area, with the partnership with the Mughals, especially Akbar and Jahangir and Shah Jahan. But if we go travel a little north from there, about an hour and a half north from there, you reach Bolpur, which is where Santiniketan, the Vishwarath University, is located. And if you look around this area, north of Bolpur and west of Bolpur, there are several villages, very small villages with like I would say hamlets actually, with beautiful terracotta temple constructions. Those were constructed by the landlords who who basically were zamindars of these villages from anytime between 18th to early 20th centuries. So they put in a lot of money in temple construction, and that happened in the west and the northern portion of Birbhum. So within an hour and a half's drive from Shantiniketan itself. So I have just put in some of the villages where there are major terracotta temples. So these are most of. So you can see the clusters. There's a cluster near Bolpur. There's a cluster in the west of that. There's a cluster in towards the north of Bolpur and all of that. So these villages are only a few, only a handful, but there are more than 70 villages that we identified during our survey there in 2011-12 for West Bengal Heritage Commission, which has remains of beautiful terracotta architecture. Unfortunately, this is completely overlooked, and recently, because temple restoration, I would say restoration in quotation, is seen as something that gives you political capital. A lot of these temples, original terracotta has been taken down, and they are just painted, like repaired with cement and painted pink or orange or yellow. It's in horrible colors. So we are losing this. We are losing this terracotta, the tradition in this area. But today we will be not going to all of these villages. We'll be not seeing all of these villages because I would run out of time in that sense. But we'll be seeing a few of them. So we'll be starting with Kalikapur, which is just south of Bolpur. Then we'll be going to Hitampur, which is west of Bolpur, about a 30-minute drive. And then we will be going north to a village called Gonpur, which is about an hour's drive from Bolpur. And then we'll be going a little further north to West Bengal, Jharkhand border, in this small village called Moluti, which is about an hour and 20 minutes drive from Bolpur, and then we will end over there. So the biggest question that basically is asked to me when I talk about Terracotta temples is, why did the Zamindars think that it was a good idea to invest in these remote villages, on invest their money to build such beautiful temples, which and some of the times the zamindars themselves did not live in these villages. They were absentee landlords. They would live in Calcutta. They would have their businesses in Calcutta, and then they would also buy these zamindaris, these remote zamindaris, and derive an income from the land as well. So what made it so interesting for them, like what made them so interested in investing in these villages to create these beautiful terracotta temples? So it's there are several reasons. First is, as I said, most of the landlords were businessmen. So in 1793, if you 1792 93, if you recall, there is a new new type of land revenue settlement that came up in Bengal under Lord Cornwallis. So this settlement basically said that your land revenue will be permanently settled. So the whatever revenue you pay in 1792, whatever tax you pay to the East India Company in 1792 or 93, that will be your tax throughout, like forever. So even if your income increases, your tax amount will not increase. But the catch here was that you have to pay 90% of your income of 1792 as tax. So as a result, because most of the traditional landlords, so most of the traditional landlords could not, who were placed there by the Mughals, who have been there since before the colonial period, they were not used to these kind of things. They were not saving that much money, and paying 90% of the tax of income as from the land revenue as tax suddenly was a huge pressure for them. So many of them could not pay that. As a result, the British East India Company would take their land away, take their zamindaris away, and they will sell them off in auctions to the highest bidder. And most of the time, these highest bidders were people who could afford to buy these zamindaris, even the remote ones, were businessmen, both Europeans and Indians, Bengalis, non-Bengalis, businessmen who were based out of Calcutta or other big cities, so Calcutta, Burdwan, or Dhaka. So they will come attend these auctions. They will buy them. Now, once you buy the land, it's like the zamindari, and you basically throw out the old zamindari family. It's important for you to show the local community who you are. You have to establish your own identity, because they have been used to the old family who have been probably in power for the last 100 years or 150 years, and now suddenly they're gone, and you are the new zamindar. So you have to show who you are. And one way of showing that, one way of building that prestige, and acquiring that social capital in the local community is through building these beautiful temples, which were not just beautiful, but they're also awe-inspiring. And that shows how much money you have, and it also also showcased your power. The other reason was to thank the gods for the fact that they had gotten these zamindaris, and also for a good harvest, asking for good harvests in the time of famines and all of that. So there were all of different reasons for that. Also, what temples created were that these temples created a community space. So this was somewhere a community can come, a small village community can come and gather together for festivals, for weddings, for even for rituals related to death and all of that. And also there were mendicant storytellers who would go around the villages and tell stories in from the Mahabharata, from the Ramayana, or from the any of the local traditions. So they would come to the temple where the in the temple yard, and the entire village community will gather in the temple yard in the evenings for to hear those stories. And basically that gave them uh, like a religious purpose to come together as a community. Also, the beautiful terracotta carvings on the temples will be showing them to you. I'll be showing them to you. Also helped these storytellers because these carvings were mostly about Ramayana and Mahabharata. Sorry, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Krishna Katha. Also, several local legends and all of that. So the storytellers can then, in because you are talking about a non-literate community in the current sense, so most people who could not read and write, so they would be listening to these stories and passing it down the generations. So having these imagery on the temples actually helped in creating that knowledge, pass that knowledge of these traditional stories, the religious stories, down the generations as well. And another thing that, as I said, these landlords were new landlords. So another thing that they did, uh, another reason that they started building terracotta temples sporadically, these beautiful temples, was that they wanted to, by using iconography, by using the symbols embedded in the temple, they wanted to create the ideal Ram Rajya. So they wanted to tell their subjects that the zamindar is actually following the ideal of Rama, and also that they are actually living in Ram Rajya, and therefore they should be lucky. Now, if you read the Bengali version of the Ramayana, I don't know what the actual Sanskrit version of the Ramayana says, but if you read the Bengali version of the Ramayana, which was popular in the village communities throughout Bengal, in the Bengal region, at this point, if you read that, then that says that clearly states that Ramayana has not happened yet. It's written as a prediction. So it is written. So basically, the some in the opening chapter it says that Ramayana is written as a prediction, and whatever you write, a person named Rama, who is an incarnation of Vishnu, will be born to fulfill whatever you write, fulfill your prediction. So these zamindars were actually playing on that and saying that they are actually fulfilling the predictions written in the Bengali Ramayana. So, and the temples helped in perpetuating that through Ramayana imagery of an ideal zamindar and all of that. So let's have a look at what the general themes of these temples used to be. So if the top portion, which is generally above the doors of the temple, the entrance to the shrine, then generally had a large plaque which would either depict the Lanka War or the court of Lord Rama. It would also either it will depict the Mahabharata war, or it will depict some incidents from the Mahabharata, or if it is a specifically deeply devout Vaishnavite zamindar, then they would have scenes from the Krishna Lila, so birth of Krishna, Krishna fighting, like defeating Kanksha, Krishna participating in the Mahabharata, in the Kurukshetra war, and all of that. So then on the side panels, what you would have are Dashavataras of Vishnu, because most of these Zamindars used to be Vaishnavites. So they would have Dashavataras. They would also have other associate deities, local deities, which were venerated on the side panels, and then they would have Rasha Chakra, which is again a Krishna Lila panel that was introduced. That would be in the side panels. And then at the very bottom they will have social scenes. So very bottom, close to people's eyes, they would have social scenes. They would have They would have hunting scenes, they would have war scenes, they would have scenes of naval battle, and they would try to say that this is what an ideal zamindar, an ideal raja does. And so that was a political poster, political propaganda for the zamindar, saying that because he was an ideal raja, and even if he actually does not do all of these things, he does not actually go hunting because there are no forests there, or he does not participate in war because he is a very small time zamindar, or he does not participate in naval battles because he doesn't have a navy. But still, it shows how an ideal zamindar should act. And based on the Ram Rajya scene at the top, um, the Zamindar claims that he is an ideal Zamindar, and then he will be doing all of these things if he is given a chance. And I'm saying he here because most of the temples, most of the landlords, all of the landlords at this time were were men. So that's why it was worth it to invest in building temples, because it was not just that you are building a temple, you are also building your own legacy, and you are also it is just like an election poster today. But long lasting, because as a zamindar you need stability in your land. You need people to obey you, need people to follow you, and you need to create that sense of community as well. So I'll move on to our first stop, which is Kalikapur. Kalikapur is technically not in Birbhum district. It's in the Birbhum, the border of Birbhum and Burdwan district, but it is in the same cultural area of temple construction. So let's get there. Let's look at the map. So Kalikapur is located here, about like half an hour's drive, 20 minutes drive from Bolpur, from Santiniketan. And it has a 19th century palace, a Rajbari, and it also has the two beautiful terracotta temples associated with it. It is out of the way. It is inside the forests in the area, so most people do not visit it, and most people do not know that it's there. But there are films that have been shot there. Bengali films, and also I think a couple of Hindi films that have been shot there over several years. So I have a 360-degree photograph of the Rajbari and the temple complex that's there. So let's have a look at that first, and then we will have a look at the temples and the terracotta panels on it. So this is the Kalikapur Rajbari. This is the Durga Dalan, or this is where the Durga Puja takes place in the family. And this building was like this Rajbari was raised was set up in in 1820s by zamindar who had purchased this land on an auction, and come here and started and build this massive structure. This is just the front section of the structure, the Durga Dalan is. So you can see there's broken pillars and all of that. So this is just the front section of the structure. There used to be 5 other additional sections. Most of them have been either like divided among the family and broken down by the current generation because they cannot maintain it anymore, or basically are in very bad shape as this one, or have already collapsed. So this 360 photograph was taken just before Durga Puja, so that's why you see the Durga Mandap over here is like it has been painted just before Durga Puja, and the Durga idol is being made inside. But for most of the year, there is only a caretaker and a priest who takes care of the entire household. Most of the family members do not either do not live here, or if they live there, they have like they do not have the money to take care of their property. So as a result, film income is income for films. Using this as a filming location is very important for this family, because they then can put the money back into some maintenance that they can do. So this is the Durga Dalan complex in the Rajbari. So if we move ahead, if you just go outside, you see these 2 beautiful terracotta temples. This is the picture that I used in the last slide as well. So this is how the the Rajberry Complex looks like from outside. You can see new temple structures being built. There are collapses of old structures and all of that. And I've visited here. I visited this Rajberry in 2011, and this section over here, which has now collapsed, was there then. But when we visited it in 2020, right before Durga Puja, that portion was completely gone. So these are the two terracotta temples which were built around the time that this Rajbari was established in the early 1820s, and 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 they are beautifully in the front section. It has beautiful terracotta carvings, very intricate terracotta carvings. So we'll have a look at that now. So one of the central themes in these temples is in one of these temples is the this beautiful Ramayana panel. So you can see Ram, Sita, very Bengali Ram, Sita, Bengali looking Ram, Sita with their very 19th century attires. So the clothes look like very 19th century. The turban looks like very 19th century, and and then is flanked by Hanuman. This is Lakshman. This is Bharat, and then Shatrughna is over here, and then this is Jamboban over here. So the moment you look at the temple, if you were from that time, you were told that this is a landlord who is very devout worshipper of Rama, and as you go down the temple, you basically try to you get the message that he is trying to become Rama himself by being a just ruler, or he's at least claiming to become Rama himself by being a just ruler. So the second temple has this Shiva Parvati panel. So there's this Shiva over here, and this is Parvati over here. Again, very beautifully carved. On the side, you have panels of various yogis. So these are just people like mendicants who would come to the villages and all of that. So that used to be very common at that time. So you have like various yogi panels on the side as it goes down, and then at the very bottom you have these war scenes, these battle scenes, and these are not these are European armies. So you see that they're wearing hat and all of that. So there's a lot of representation of the Europeans in the bottom panels, because in these zamindaris who basically got these zamindaris in auction, they used to show their allegiance as much as they could to the Europeans in the best way they could. And one of the ways to show their allegiance to the Europeans is by putting Europeans in the panels, European armies or European figures in the terracotta panels, which are very visible. So whoever will come to, if a sahib comes and visits your property, you can show the sahib or the mem sahib that they are prominently present in your religious system, in your system of allegiance and all of that. And also this sent a clear message that this landlord is a representative sort of the East India Company. So there is a bigger power behind him. So basically don't mess with him. This was a political message as well. So our next stop is Hitampur, which is a slightly older property, like zamindari than Kalikapur, and the last Raja of Hitampur has just passed away last year. So even though, of course, there is the zamindari system has been abolished, but this family is highly revered in the local community even today as the people who take care of the community. And the last Raja had passed away last year, which was a cause of huge sorrow in the community. And he passed away just before the Durga Pujas, which was again was seen as something very inauspicious. So when we visited, the entire village was in mourning. So Hitampur is located right here. So about 40 to 45 minutes drive from Santiniketan, west of Santiniketan. And it's a village that is easy to miss because I mean, you don't. The highway just skirts the village, and you do. There are no clear markers through which you can enter the village. So if you're not looking, then you might miss it. Let's look at the 360 pictures, and then we are going to see the temple specifically. So this is the Hitampur Palace. Now on the side, there these concrete, ugly concrete buildings that have come up. These are recently made by the West Bengal government because they have converted this palace land into a teachers training institute. So this is where the classrooms are and all of that. But when we went during right after the first COVID lockdown, so the classes were not happening. The building looks pretty well maintained from outside, but actually from inside, we were not allowed to take pictures. But actually from inside, it is not very well maintained. It's actually falling down. This palace was built in 1905, so the palace itself is not as old as the zamindari. The zamindari is from 1780s, so even before the permanent settlement. So what happened was that um, the local rich family of Hitampur, the Chakraborty family, they had helped the British to defeat the Muslim kings in this region. And because of the help that was rendered to the British by the Hitampur, this rich family of Hitampur, they were declared as the Rajas of Hitampur by the British East India Company. And as a result, they got there in this huge prestige, and they started building their massive mansion. Their old palace is elsewhere and it has completely collapsed. And they also started building temples in the area. So if you want to see the real state of this palace, you have to go behind the palace. This is the entire palace yard around the back of the palace, and you can see much of it is actually grown over, and places have collapsed. And you can see that more places over here is collapsing still. So it's not in a very good shape, unfortunately. And because this land is divided between the West Bengal Teachers Training College and the Dayanand Anglo Vedic School on the other side, uh, that there is a dispute between who should maintain the building and all of that. So that is why this building doesn't get maintained, and it is very close to collapsing. Again, one of their main sources of income for the family is letting a small section of the building that they own, which is the first floor of the building, so letting that section off for film shootings and all of that. Other than that, there is no income that this building that the family has, unfortunately, right now, that they could put back in the conservation. Now, one of the early temples that was built here and that survives till today is this one, very close to the Rajberry. It's a interesting looking octagonal temple, uh, and with very clear European features. Just by looking at it, you can see very clear European features. And it was actually designed by an Italian architect. The temple plan was designed by an Italian architect, which was roped in by the family members in 1847 to design this temple. And then the terracotta plaques here do not look traditional at all. We'll have a closer look at them, and you'll see the level in which the idea of showing allegiance to the British and deriving power from that went. This is the level, this is the ultimate limit of that. I have not seen this in any other temples in Bengal. Therefore this specific temple, this is a Shiva temple, but it's unique because of the way that the terracotta plaques are used to create that political identity, and that these zamindars were a very humble British allies. So let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at the temple and the plaques. So this is how the temple looks like. Again, I said, and these are all like it looks like pinnacles, but they are not. These are not traditional pinnacles, and it also has very European figurines on top, figurines of angels and all of that, because it was designed by an Italian architect in a very European fashion. It was made to look very European. It's actually a Shiva temple. It's not a chapel or a shrine or a Christian shrine or anything of that sort. Now, if you look at the central panel here, now, this is surprising. This is 1847. Queen Victoria had just become the Queen of England. You can see Queen Victoria at the top of the panel. I've never seen that anywhere. There's no other temple that does this ever. So you can see Queen Victoria at the top of the terracotta panel and this plaque. And below Queen Victoria, you have the entire Pantheon of Durga. So uh, goddess Durga with her children, the form that she is worshipped in Bengal. So basically, what they're trying to say is they're trying to equate Queen Victoria with goddess Durga. So this was the height of trying to to both show their allegiance to the British as well as show the sense of uh, as well as deriving power from that allegiance. And then below this, you have the coat of arms of the East India Company over here, very prominently. This does not feature in any other temple in Bengal, uh, and thankfully, this temple still survives. On this side, you have the image of you have a plaque uh, which the experts have said that is Robert Clive, and on this side you have another plaque which the experts have said is Warren Hastings. Now, how they identified them, I don't know, but the entire front facade of the temple, entire central panel of the temple, which is the most important panel, depicts only Europeans, except for the pantheon of the goddess Durga, and this was basically like this is unique in Bengal, and most people do not go and see this temple because it's such out of the way. So this is a closer look at Queen Victoria's image in terracotta. This is a closer look of the East India Company's coat of arms in terracotta. Now, opposed to this, there is another temple in the village which is more traditional and which was actually built by the diwans of this family, the diwans who worked for this family. And because the diwan's family did not like, they already derived their allegiance to like they derived their wealth and power and allegiance from working with the royal family themselves. They did not directly have to please the Europeans. So this temple that the Diwan family made around the same time as the other temple that we saw, the Shiva temple that we saw, was all like it looks more traditional. The terracotta architecture is more traditional, and it basically hammers on the idea of the ideal Ram Rajya, and that the Diwan is working under the ideal king. So this, you can see the coat of Ram, very different looking coat of Ram than the previous one that we saw. You can see Hanumana here. You can see Jambuban here. And you can see the court musicians and all of that. The dress is again very 19th century, very upper class Persianate dress that you can see. So it's not like, this gives you some idea of what people in the elites would have been wearing at that time. So this is a closer look at Rama and Sita, and you can see the intricacy of the carving of in the panels. And then on the side of this temple, there is this very interesting panel, which is common in many terracotta temples of Bengal. It's called the Mrityulata. So basically, a succession of death. So basically, it's a panel where a man is eating a head of a lion, and then an elephant is eating the head of a man, and then a man is eating the head of an elephant, and then the horse is eating the head of a man. It continues. So basically, the idea of this is that the like how you become a higher being after. So it's the concept of rebirth, the concept of constant rebirth and karma and all of that, and how after death, like after successive deaths and being born as these different beings, you become a higher being. And it starts from the bottom of the temple and ends at the very top of the temple, and it's a continuous panel like this. So moving on to our next location, which is a village called Ganpur in like which is located about an hour's drive from hour and 15 minutes drive north of Bolpur. It's located over here. And the interesting thing is that this is again a very small village, but with two very beautiful temple complexes with beautiful terracotta. And the family that was like the royal family, or the landlords, zamindars, that were here, they actually ordered the construction of these two temple complexes during the famine of 1770, because there was a scheme that they started that they will give relief, they will give payment in food to the villagers if they send the male members of the family to work on building these temple complexes. So whether it was very kind thing to do, whether it was exploitation, that's up to you to decide. But that's when the as a way of giving relief, or as a way of saying who was in charge of relief, they used the local landlords used the labor of the local community, the male members of the local community, to work on these temples so that they can be given they'll be given their daily bread per se during the time when massive famine was sweeping through Bengal, and a famine that had actually killed a third of Bengal's population at that time in 1770. So let's have a look at the complexes in 360, and then we will go to individual temple complexes and have a closer look at the terracotta panels. So this is the first complex of five temples, five Shiva temples. This central one has been like recently painted and painted red. So this is what is happening to most of the temples. One interesting thing is that these actually are not burnt brick. The temples and the panels are not made of burnt brick. They're made of crushed like iron ore, laterite iron ore. So the Gaunpur region, it's inside a forest, and the Gaunpur region was known for producing one of the best quality iron before industrialization came in Bengal, in medieval Bengal. And so there is still a lot of iron ore nearby, and crushed iron ore is used uh, to basically it's put in water, hardened, and then dried and hardened in blocks, and then they're put in casts, and these panels are made out of that. And then the iron ore is then these blocks with these carvings are then put in fire and burnt to give them this kind of a look. So this is not traditional terracotta per se, but it follows all the aspects of terracotta architecture. It's just that that iron ore was very easily available in this area. So this is the first complex. We'll have a closer look at the panels soon, and then you go and just walk a few meters, and you see this temple complex just next door. This has 21 Shiva temples, and again, most of the plaques have now abraded. There was an attempt to restore these temples by the West Bengal Heritage Commission in early like 2005, 2006, but they were doing such a poor job that the villagers had basically protested, and basically they said that they don't need the Heritage Commission to destroy their temple plaques and stuff. And that is still a story today. That everyone will tell you that if you go there, that whatever, like, they were replacing this conservationists were replacing these old plaques with newer ones, and it is the newer ones which do not last did not last over for more than 2 years. But the older ones have lasted for more than for more than 200 years now. So if you go on this side, you can see the other side of the complex as well. And also you see this structure. So this is actually Dol Mancha. So it's used to put the Krishna idol from the family, the royal family, the Zamindar family of this village. The idol is put up here during Holi, and it's worshipped. The idol is worshipped there, as well as the holy celebrations take place in the yard over here. Oops, I'm sorry. Just go back to my presentation. Okay. So let's look at the first temple cluster, which is the 5 Shiva temples together. If you Even though these are Shiva temples, is there like panels from Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Krishna Katha on it? So this is, for example, a panel of the Vastra Harana Parva in the Ramayana. So here you can see Yudhishthir and Shakuni playing the dice, and then you can see Vastra Haran here of Draupadi and Krishna. Basically, this is Dushashan, and this is Draupadi, and this is Krishna protecting her honor. And then here you have a panel from the Ramayana over in the Lanka War. So this is Rama and Lakshmana fighting Ravana's army in Lanka War, and you can also have we also have Shiva lingas in the bottom. And then there's on another temple, you have the birth of Krishna panel, and this is one of my favorites, and this is one of its kind in Bengal, because I've not seen this anywhere else in Bengal, both East Bengal, which is modern day Bangladesh, and West Bengal here. So you can see here Kangsha is killing the babies, the children, on a stone. This is Krishna's father basically presenting the baby to Kangsha, and then he kills them. He tramples them under the foot of elephant, and then Krishna is born over here in the cell, in the prison, and then he is being taken out and put in water, and then here he has been rescued and given to given to Yashoda to bring him up. So this is a really beautiful, really elaborate panel, and there's not another panel of this kind in Bengal, at least not that I know of. And then you have these very interesting side panels which show village scenes. So basically, this is the pestle that's been used, and then you have panels showing iron being worked, because, as I said, this was an area where iron production happened. You have panels that show people tilling their fields, and all of those things. Remember, all of these were made in 1770 or around that time to give food against labor of the local community. The second complex has, more elaborate panels. Used to have more elaborate panels, but most of the top panels you can see are empty because they have been damaged over the years. Some of them have been taken out allegedly by the government agency that was appointed to restore it. I say allegedly because I was not there, but that's what the villagers tell me, and I don't. And they have told this to me several times whenever I was there. So. And so that they've just been filled in with cement, which is again really sad. And then this is the the Dol Mancha that you have, where you can see two round things. So these are the Rasha chakras, which is basically Krishna playing with the gopis, and then you have celebrations happening all around. So this is one of the panels there. where you can see Ganga over here um, on a crocodile, stylized crocodile, and then the next one you can see the Ramayana War. So this is Ravana over here on his chariot, and this is Ram over here, which is the panel is almost mostly destroyed, and so again another Ramayana panel. And this is the Krishna panel that I in the Krishna in the Dol Mancha. So you can see these are the Rash chakras. So Krishna dancing with the gopis in both of these, and then there are celebrations happening around that. And this is only used during the Dol festival during Holi. And the bottom panels of most of these temples have things like these, which is a scene of a naval war, and then dancers in the royal court and all and things like that. And then there's this temple, which is an unfinished temple in the village. It was built in the construction stopped in. I mean, construction finished in 1780s, but it was never inaugurated because the person who was sent to bring the Shiva Linga for this, sorry, not the Shiva Linga, the Vishnu image for this temple was actually killed by a thunderstrike. And so the zamindars started believe that this is an unlucky temple and this was a god's message that they don't want the temple to be consecrated. So as a result, this temple was never consecrated. This is considered to be a cursed temple. And recently, this house has been built associated with it, almost guarding the front of the temple. And they use the interiors of the temple to store their rice and store paddy and wood for cooking and all of that. So we went inside, and you can see these beautiful carvings in front. This blank area is where the establishment plaque would have been, but the establishment plaque would have only been placed there after consecration. Since this was never consecrated, there was no establishment plaque that was put in there. And here you see the Ramayana War Panel again. So more elaborate ones, much bigger ones. So you can see Rama here fighting above on the shoulder of Hanuman, and then this is Ravana on his chariot. And then on the side you have Radha and Krishna on one of the side panels over the main door. And then our final destination is Moluti, which is just north of Gaunpur, about 20 minutes drive from Gaunpur, and currently across the Bengal-Jharkhand border. But you have to also go through some forests to get there. So there are a lot of you can easily miss your direction and end up in completely different place. And it happened with us. So Moluti actually was it was a prominent village under this dynasty, the Braj Bashanta dynasty, since the 15th century. This village was actually granted to this dynasty by the Mughals, and not the Mughals, the Bengal Sultans, and they have been in charge of Maluti village since that time, and therefore Maluti has about 70 temples, most of them crumbling because the family members are not there anymore. They don't own the zamindari anymore, and they don't have the money to maintain the temple. So let's go through this 360-degree tour there. And since it already has the plaques embedded in the 360 tours, I will be taking you through a close-up look while we take the tour. So this is one of the temple clusters. Two temple clusters, one on the left side of the road, one on the right side of the road. So we proceed. And this is where the Durga puja used to happen. The Durga Dalan is in terrible shape, as you can see over here. If you click up there, then you'll see the close-up of the Terracota imagery on top. So you can see two lions. This is where the insignia of the family used to be, which is now gone. And then you can see just just busts, like very tiny busts of human beings. So, and around that, it's surrounded by Shiva temples, several Shiva temples. So when we go in there, it looks like this. So this is where the Durga idol would be placed for people to see. And then if you go on this side, there are rooms on both sides, which was basically the preparation room for the worship and all of that. But again, Durga Puja doesn't happen in this temple, like in this space anymore. So this is what remains of the Rajbari. There are some people living there, but they're not from the royal family, and the Rajbari is almost collapsing. So this is another side of the road, and there is the new Durga Dalan which has been established there, and the Durga Puja takes place here at this point. So if you go close to these temples and click here, you can see the central plaque. This is again a Ramayana plaque of the Lanka War. And click this one. Again, another Lanka War panel of Ramayana, from Ramayana. And then you go here. This is the tallest of all the temples. You click there. Again, another Lanka War panel. And then also you have these flowers, floral patterns, which were very much associated with the Krishna cult, the local Krishna cult. So very interestingly, the Zamindars, even if the Zamindars were Vaishnavite, which most of them were, they would still build Shiva temples. They will still worship, like they will still have Durga Puja. So because this was such an integral part of the culture in the rural culture, connected with agrarian agricultural seasons and all of that. So if we get here, then there is another beautiful plaque on this one. Again, another Ramayana panel. Okay. Right, so that is the end of my talk. I hope it was not boring and it was useful. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Rajshekar. Very beautiful talk. I mean, very nicely explained, and it's nice to see the terracotta temples. I have few questions. I mean, what is the time scale? I mean, what is the time period they've taken to build all these things? I mean, the duration of building. Any idea or any? Is
So
it
you
in the
mean
same time? Yeah.
each temple or the total span of?
So the span of time. For example, any one cluster, how long will it take? Is it is there any influence of the one cluster into other, or do you see any architecturally there is a overlap of culture? If it happened the same time, it is yes. But do you see the in the same time it happened or?
Yeah. I mean, most of the clusters will be built at the same time because it was easier that way. Like
Okay,
you save more cost if you built everything at the same time. And
okay,
also otherwise you have to, because the people who constructed these, who made these blocks, they were traveling, they were constantly traveling throughout the region because their skills were in demand. And because this was a very small community of who actually knew how to make these beautiful plaques, that community doesn't exist anymore. The knowledge doesn't survive anymore. So because they were always traveling, their skills were always in demand, it was uh, easier for one zamindar to actually engage them for
Mhm.
maybe a year to build a couple of clusters, and then then let them go to another village and build for the other zamindar and all of that. So if it's a cluster, then all of it was built around this at the same time or within the span of a year, generally.
Massive, because I would presume the whole building is terracotta because blocks.
Yeah.
Because the panel, it's because it is a massive, work. We need to get the kilning. Basically, it should end with the kilning part.
Yeah.
So we should have a large kiln and then do, it's a long process rather than a normal sculpting or normal any of the things, right?
And also there's a lot of errors because sometimes your heat might not be the right, and it will crumble and all of that.
Weather, absolutely. So fantastic, because I had seen the similar ones. Rather the same idea of terracotta soldiers in China. So massive area, and then they made about 8,000 soldiers with each one have a different face. So I could understand how difficult and how important is in the culturally done. So it's very, very nice. Do you see anywhere in India have the same small clusters of terracotta temples around?
Terracotta has been used in
large clusters.
Large clusters. But the 17th to early 20th century terracotta that you see in Bengal is pretty unique in this cultural region.
Okay. That's interesting.
And when I say Bengal, it's basically East Bengal and West Bengal. So modern day Bangladesh and West Bengal.
Okay. One particular, I think one panel explained about making a local depiction seems to have a gumboots. I don't know, maybe we see somebody is making food, they're making some pestle, and with that lady or men who are standing look like a gumboot. So I was surprised about 300 years back. How it's culturally, it came to gumboot level, or I don't know, how it relate in the locally.
They would use, the Europeans would wear boots like that.
Okay, depiction of, no, it's like a local work, right? They're making some, with a mortal pestle, they're breaking something.
Let me just go back
have a look at it.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen again. It's here. This one.
Yeah, this one. So if you look at a closer look.
Yeah. They would be they would be mixing and matching different kinds of.
Nice. Nice. Somebody captured it, and
you can also see that he's wearing pants, which would be a very European thing to do. Trousers, which would be a very European thing to do at that time.
Yeah, that's right. So it's nice. They have covered it also. Yeah, nice. Yeah, very nice. So I've always been liking terracotta, but I didn't know that such big structures exist.
Yeah, unfortunately, they are in very bad shape, most of them.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, thank you. Very good. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Hi, it was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So I had been to Bishnupur. So because my hobby is traveling and doing photography, and one of the genres I do is architecture photography. So last year, Jan, I had gone to Bishnupur. I had spent a couple of days there photographing all the temples. So that was one area I want to do, and I never knew that these places exist. So so I just need because how did you cover that one? So I have many questions now. So because how many days it takes to cover this entire area?
So if you want to do a detailed photography, then I would say keep about 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 days, and
because you have to come back to Bolpur, to Santiniketan every day, because there is no place to no proper place to stay in the entire area, except for Santiniketan. So and that's a long back and forth drive. So that takes time. Plus you have to go there when the light is perfect, and
yes,
when the light is actually falling on the plaques to take pictures. So I think 7 to 10 days easily it will be.
Fine. That's why I spent 2 days in Bishnupur, because I want to see the light where it is, and then so that takes time. Because so I'm currently stationed at Dhaka. So I had done extensive photography in Bangladesh side. So one is very closer to India, in the western border of Bangladesh, a place called Rajshahi. So probably it's around 20 kilometers in the border. So there's a place called Putia, and there's a Rajberry, which is very, very famous. So beautiful temples, I think, and even now they're maintaining it to a level better. So it's done well. And slightly on the northern side, if you go you have this Contagion Mandir. Like it's a very big terracotta temple which actually got destroyed, but only the base structure currently remains. Still, it is done. So, and even in the southern side, you have the 60 dome mosque, which is again in terracotta structure. So there are many places I have done extensive one, and some and few are in Dhaka also. You can find here and there where I have done this one, and a place called Shonarga, also very closer to that one. So I have done some one. It's a beautiful area. So definitely a lot of temples exist like are in this area. It's a So I just fell in love with that structure. So I kept on exploring, and then finally I was wondering I should cross the other border and see that one. Then I came to Bishnupur. So unfortunately, because of COVID, I couldn't continue that entire area. Otherwise, I would have done it. So probably next time when things ease, then I will try it.
Yeah, I mean, winter is the best time to do it because of the light and everything.
And if it is rainfall, also it's very good to take architecture photography. So these are the clouds and everything will form quite well. So so that's the time to do that. Okay, but it's a wonderful, eye-opening presentation. And have you written any book on this or anything, any article?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Okay. And do you have any of your pictures where I can see it in a Facebook page or in a website?
I mean, you can get in touch. I'll put my email in the in the chat so that.
Okay. And Bangladesh state still they're maintaining it quite well. So I was a bit surprised. Some of the Rajbari, there are many Rajbaris here, and every Rajbari, as you said, has got a temple, and many temples are also there. Cluster of temples are there, and they are maintained quite well. So still some people stay there, and unfortunately some are connected to government offices and type of things, but still maintained very well. And
I mean it's sad here that it's not.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I put my email ID in the chat.
Good evening, sir. This is Shayantan. I'm also from Calcutta, actually. I think your mic is muted, sir.
I said hi.
Hi. So yeah, actually, I've tried to follow your work, and in the beginning of your presentation, you said that not only temples, but there are quite a few terracotta mosques as well in Bengal. And I happened to visit one mosque because I found it in Dipanjan Ghosh's blog, the mosque which is in Adishoktagram, the Sayyid Jamaluddin's mosque. So I was wondering the way the people who have made the temples, they have depicted scenes of Ramayana and Mahabharata and the local village life in the temple panels. So is there anything similar in the mosques? Because I didn't see anything in the Jamaluddin mosque. Those were only decorations and all, and that mosque is also not in a very good condition. So
so the thing is, in Islam it's haram to depict living beings. So what you only have is floral and vegetal patterns. So that's why you don't see any living unless it's a Shia Imambara. There you see horses because that was connected to the Karbala war and all of that. But apart from that, you don't see anything. And most of these terracotta mosques in Gaur, Pandua, and even here in Murshidabad and even Jamaluddin's mosque and one of that and those ones, those were like Friday mosques. So they are not imambaras. So you don't see any living beings.
Thank you so much for that. I didn't know that actually. So, but this is actually a very fascinating thing which I found because I never knew that there were mosques which are built with terracotta. I only knew that there were temples. So when I found that information in Dipanjan's blog, so that was really fascinating. So I think maybe when the travel starts again, so we can go ahead and visit the other mosques of Bengal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. Thank you.
See, there is one Buddhist monastery type which has got destroyed, which is a place called Paharpur in the northern side of Bengal.
That's a World Heritage Site, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So there also they have used terracotta structure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll send you some of the pictures I have shot. So probably I'll send you different places so that
Sure, sure.
at least it will be interesting to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I
and if
mean,
you're
terracotta, because of the lack of stones, proper stones, terracotta was always, and bricks were always the go-to medium.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. No problem.
I had a question.
Sure.
You just said that terracotta was easily available. That's why they went and made the temples in terracotta.
Manisha, can you be a little more louder?
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello.
It's better, but you can.
Okay, now is it okay?
I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm saying that you just mentioned that terracotta was easily available. That's why they were made because there was a dearth of stone.
Yes, so there is a dearth of stones that could be used for building. So especially in South Bengal, because this area is like good quality stones are not available.
Okay.
So mud was easily available, good quality mud, and then you can build bricks out of them. You can make these plaques out of them.
So the whole structure is made of terracotta?
The entire structure is burnt brick, yeah,
Oh, great. Wow.
even including the foundation.
Wow. Actually,
See, I can clarify it because in Bangladesh there is no stone at all. So all the stones come from India. So this area you don't find the granite or whatever the black stones you don't find at all for construction.
Yeah, so the oldest, this is just some like digressing from the original topic, but the oldest standing structure in Calcutta is actually a black stone structure, which is now whitewashed. But it has the stone there has been actually imported from Madras. So because there was no good quality stone nearby.
so fascinating.
Thank you.
I just have one more question. I mean, what type of architecture is this? I mean, you see in temples in general, in south you see a typically rhomboidal structural temples, and then you go north is different. Orissa is different. So, what type this follows? I mean, any idea on
So
this
this is a
architectural?
specific Bengal style,
Okay.
which was basically influenced by the Bhakti and the Sufi movements of the 14th and 15th centuries. Because so you can see probably most of the temples look like brick huts
Yeah.
with
Right.
the carved roofs and all of that. So that is just a representation of the mud huts that you used to see or that you still see in the countryside, because during the Bhakti and Sufi movement, the idea was that God is not a distant being. It's like God is more closer to your home and can be a member of your family. So that is why in order to like following that ideology, the temples were built in a more of a hut shape,
Okay.
just to represent the home of common, like the home that you see in the villages.
In south, it's very different. It's completely elaborate,
Yeah,
large structures, and it's
The
amazing.
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because in shape wise, it's different, quite different. You have
yeah, yeah.
rhomboidal structures. I mean, nice. It's good. Very nice to know that.
Thank you, thank you.
So another question.
Sure.
I have seen terracotta plaques in Molela region also in Rajasthan.
Hmm.
So are they similar to each other? Any idea? Or are they being were they inspired by the terracotta temples in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, it may be possible because Bengal and Rajasthan were linked culturally through trade and everything, but it's unlikely that the same kind of artisans would have traveled.
Yeah, because it is different, but
Yeah.
still similarities there.
Yeah, so I mean, if you use mud, it's the medium, right? The medium, you have a certain range of types that you can make. So there will be some typological similarities, but uh, I don't think it's influencing one another in that sense.
So all these plaques were made individually and then later fixed to the walls.
Yeah, so they were made in blocks, uh, in casts. Like these were muds put in casts and then made in blocks, and then these blocks were this raw blocks of mud were then burnt, put in fire, put in furnace, and burnt just like you make brick. And then they were fixed individually in these temples. So that's why it's very easy to also take them out if you want to take them out, because the entire block will just come out.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Nija here.
Hi, Nirja.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
the pictures were so beautiful, and the temples, of course. So I was just wondering, so these are temples only in Bengal that you've seen anything similar anywhere else in India?
So Bengal, when I say Bengal, then you have to also like Bengal in the Bengal cultural region, which at that point included Bihar
Okay.
and part of northern Odisha as well. So Balasore and that area, plus the
Okay.
entire what is now Bangladesh and southern Assam. So in
But
this area,
generally,
it's common, but
but generally
outside that it's not very common, because the once you go towards Jharkhand anyway, you get stone. So stone structures become more prominent. So it's the use of brick and use of terracotta in this way was caused by the dearth of stones.
So the carvings and the stories are all the same. That's what you're saying. It's only the medium of construction or medium
Yeah,
that differs.
yeah. And also because you use brick, you cannot build larger structures. So the
Not very
moment
big temples.
not very big temples. So moment
Yeah,
you
I
go
saw
to
that. Yeah.
Odisha, or moment you go to Jharkhand and look at these older Jain temples that was there, or even Purulia, which is the Jharkhand border, Bengal border, there are several large big like Jain temples there, which are all made of stone. So you could actually do that, but there was a constraint in brick architecture that you cannot make them that big.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Dr. Neogi, for those excellent presentation. As Nija rightly said, the pictures are
Thank you.
wonderful. I'm sure everybody appreciated the photographs and the way you narrated the entire thing. So, as I was mentioning, temples in those days are not just for worshipping gods, which has now become that way, right? We build temples only to, worship. But those days they were. They served a lot many purposes, political and religious, and especially for a person like me on the southern side, the southern tip of India. So this is a wonderful experience to learn about those things. So thank you very much on behalf
Thank
of
you.
the
Thank you
entire
very much
ICF.
for asking me to do this. I enjoyed
Yes,
it quite a
yes.
lot.
Thank you on behalf of the entire ICF community.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Thank you very
evening.
much, everyone.